Awesome. So welcome to Det 105's podcast. I'm joined today with Cadet Luna and Cadet Delasantos. They're two awesome GMC cadets within the detachment, but I won't overstep on them. Cadet Delasantos, why don't you go ahead and lead us off? Tell us a little about yourself, what your job in the ROTC is, and just kind of go from there.
Well, good afternoon. I am Cadet Chief Master Sergeant Delasantos, or Det 105's Command Chief. And basically what I do is kind of oversee the cadet enlisted team and serve as one big GMC liaison up to wing staff every week. We basically serve as representatives and let the POC Corps kind of know how the GMC feel and kind of feedback from them during the program. I'm an environmental engineering student here at CU Boulder, and yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today, Cadet Luna.
Yeah, I'm Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Luna, and I'm the Command Chief's executive. Basically, I'm Cadet Delasantos' deputy. So we're both on wing staff and transferring feedback from GMC to POC. And at least for us, we want to bridge that gap between GMC and POC and have everyone more comfortable with each other. And then I'm a geography major, and I love maps and geographic data. So.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome. It's a very diverse background between you two. So again, I appreciate you both being here. I'm Cadet Chappelle. I'm a runner in the program. I do not go to Boulder. I'm a crosstown student at University of Denver. I still don't know my AFSC. Long story with that one. Hopefully a different podcast. But I'm just excited to be here. It's weird being my last semester. I've seen so many changes happen within the program, including both your position being kind of that liaison, which has been super cool to see. What has that been like for either of you? And either of you can take this question, both you can. What is that liaison position for you? How has that been managed?
Well, I can just kind of take the beginning of this. At least this semester, we kind of changed the outline of the GMC team. So we were formerly the GMCL team, and the program kind of shifted to be more cadet enlisted to better align with the structure that is seen in the Big Blue. So I personally love the change. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it brings a new purpose and reinvigorates kind of the mission of the detachment. But yeah, I've learned a lot already, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is, as I've had like previous positions similar to this, is just being able to interact with POC and see the inner workings of what goes on, because it's not just training every lead lab. There's all the operations, mission support, CAF, all of that comes together. So being able to see all of that come together has been really neat. And at the same time, we're also like higher up to see all these like small little cracks that slip through, and like it's like a continuous cycle of trying to find out what needs to be improved and then how we can be better next time. So it's a continuous cycle about that.
Yeah, and that's absolutely awesome. You guys have been able to see the kind of overall mission at play. I know that was one of the biggest changes for me going into the POC is you see everything. Like the things you don't see as a GMC, it's you automatically see. So for you two to have that perspective, it's going to be really, really neat seeing into the POC core, which is awesome. And then I guess, so going back to what you were saying, like those GMC POC relations, just on a very, very general level, what does it mean to be a cadet to you? What does that term mean to you, and how do you kind of embody that?
Yeah, so being a cadet, I personally, coming into college, it's a unique role for sure. Like you see all of your other friends and they just like do whatever and they go and have fun, or they just have different hobbies. But being a cadet means that, you know, you're kind of focusing on your professional development while getting a degree, while trying to support your wingman. So I know that sometimes I come home to my civilian roommates and like sometimes we're not all on the same page. But I think it's a super unique opportunity. ROTC provides a super special space for just people to develop as students as well as up and coming officers. And so I know that even like on my bus rides to school every day, I'm like studying warrior knowledge and like maybe looking over the FTM, like on top of also maybe learning just all my engineering course load and all that stuff. So it's kind of a dual life, but it's a life that I know will kind of set me up for success in the future. And I really enjoy it.
Awesome. Yeah, and before we get to you with that, Cadet Luna, Cadet Delasantos, you have a tremendously busy schedule being engineering cadet. I'm just a business major, so I see engineers doing this, working jobs as well, and it just blows my mind how you're able to do that. How have you been able to? It's just a full plate.
Yeah, so I realized pretty early on that time management is the number one key to success. And I know that has been said like probably 70 million times. But seriously, I remember coming into college and being like, oh, I will just do this. And if I have free time, I'll do ROTC. And the answer is no. You kind of have to figure out how to mesh them together. So essentially what I do is I plan out my days day by day, because I know that if for at least me personally, that if I try to take off too much of a chunk, I just get way too overwhelmed. And engineering is ridiculous. Like sometimes a few assignments can take upwards of 8 hours. And so like just planning and understanding that that's just going to be the reality is how I deal with it. Just like, maybe today's going to be a late day and maybe I'm not going to get as much sleep today, but I try to do some preemptive planning as well. So yeah, it's tough.
Plan on not getting sleep. You really got to plan those out for PT at 6 a.m. the next day.
Right.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that, Cadet De Los Santos. So we'll go to you, Cadet Luna. What does it mean to be a cadet for you? How does that term kind of sit with you and resonate?
Well, at least coming into ROTC, my dad was in the Air Force, so I kind of had an idea of what went on, but I didn't really know until I was a cadet. And one of the biggest things I've learned is it's all about leadership and followership. As a GMC, you're learning from the POC on how to be a good leader, and then you're always put into the situations where if you're a flight commander, you're the leader, but if you're in the flight, you're a follower, and then it transfers over to the POC. You're the one training the future the future GMC to become POC. So it's a continuous cycle of how to be a better leader and how to be a better follower. And at least going off of Cadet Delasantos talking about time management, ROTC definitely puts you to the test with that. As a geography major, I'm not as busy, but it's a pretty busy schedule. And at least for me personally, I like having a busy schedule just because it allows me to be more efficient with the time that I have. So like, let's say I have a 2-hour break. Well, that's the time to get schoolwork done. And then I have whatever else I have after that. And then certain times, if I get a longer break, like on the weekend, it's a nice way to relax and then get back into it in the coming days. So.
Yeah, you seem like you already got life figured out. So I'll get you your gold bars right now. Schedule. So that was definitely a learning process for me. So to hear both of you say that, you are miles ahead. I can tell you that. So props to both of you for that. And that's awesome, Cadet Luna. It's definitely a busy course load and a busy just all around life for you as well, being a cadet. Definitely what it sounds like for both of you. What has been some of your best interactions or best just kind of memories when you think Air Force ROTC at Det 105? What kind of comes to mind for either of you?
For me, the first thing that popped into mind was PT, because for us, our first semester was completely online. And then coming spring semester to have PT, at least for us, Boulder PT is obviously the biggest group, but having us all together and working out together. I love working out with other people. I was always on the sports team. So like coming back to that was fantastic, and doing memorial push-ups at the end was always extremely motivating way to end PT. So that was the first thing that really stood out to me once we came back in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, kind of going off of that, exactly what Cadet Luna said. We did come off of Zoom, so I remember literally like the first EFTP session, there were like 30 cadets because we were all so excited to just learn and be together. And trying to explain why I was excited to get up at like 4 in the morning to my family and friends was like indescribable. But I definitely like we all showed up ready. We had everything stando. It was like so fun, and it like being able to meet new 100s as well, and like being able to share just kind of like this passion to develop was super. I remember being so excited. Like I'm getting up at 4 in the morning. I'm ready to drill, march, and all that stuff. So that was like probably one of the first like core in-person memories.
Cool. Yeah, that's I mean, your kind of class coming off of Zoom like that and then jumping right into it. That's something that I admire both you and class for, just being able to do that and be flexible with that. Because I remember talking to some of my friends and they're like, gosh, if I started ROTC online, I don't know how I'd still be in the program. Honestly, it was just turning the camera down, saying, okay, this is how you do a facing movement. Just, all right, now let me see you do it on Zoom. So transition had to be so stressful at the same time. And I can't even imagine what you both did. And that PT had to be so invigorating. I'm sure you probably ran a 4-minute mile and a half after that. So that's absolutely awesome. Yeah, PT has always been something that I've enjoyed, that I've heard so many other cadets, they just look forward to it. And I love that energy and having that, especially being across town. Our PT is a little bit different. Denver specifically, we're meeting outside at a park, so that always more than likely not will get hindered by weather. So we kind of have to around that. But I've been up to Boulder PT a couple times, and it's just, I personally just love it. It's locked off with cadre, and it's just a good time, honestly. So hearing that makes me happy to hear. Well, along the lines of that, either of you have any funny cadre interactions that would be appropriate for this podcast, or anything that you've enjoyed from a single cadre member, or any stories that you have about them?
Well, at least for me, I play cadre and foosball pretty much every week. Major Cowish and Captain Michael. Ooh, that's a powerful duo. I've yet to beat the two of them together, but it's a lot of fun just to break the ice and like, boom, play some foosball. So,
yeah, you have not beat them yet?
I've not beat them together, but yeah. So I haven't, Major Cowish, I haven't beaten at all. Captain Michael I might have beaten like once on like 1v1, but.
Sounds like an end of the year morale event for the entire det, just to put
yeah,
outside and everyone circles up. That's awesome. What about you, Cadet Delasantos?
Yeah, I'd say, well, I don't play foosball, but I just finished my midterm counseling with Major Lacroix about last week, and it, like, almost without fail, every time I forget my wings password, so I can't like sign the counseling. So it's always like funny that we have to like sit there while I like try for like 3 minutes, either figure it out or reset it, and he always, just gives me a hard time. And so that's funny. That's always a good time in there when I'm like partially stressed out, like partially, you know, relaxed. It's an interesting environment.
That's happened to me too a couple times, and I think you're to blame for the consistent reminders before Form 48 meetings where you have to have your password and it's prefaced in quotes. So thank you for that, Cadet Delasantos, for
Yes.
taking one for the team with that one. Yeah, I definitely think we're lucky to have the cadre we have at Det 105. And this is not a podcast to toot their own horn. I'm not saying that at all. This is I love our cadre. There's something special, and you'll see cadre come and go, and you'll see certain cadre you click with, certain cadre that are like, okay, they're cadre, and it creates the dynamic for the detachment. I think our dynamic is super special. And was there any reason either of you chose Det 105 to begin with? Was it a det that drove you, or just school in general?
Well, I am on HSSP, so I did get a type 7, and I could have transferred out of state, but that kind of kept me closer to home, which in hindsight, I actually really enjoy. Like, I'm able to see my family a lot more than I would have, and I'm also super stoked that our det is as big as it is and that we perform as well as we do. It brings a lot of pride, and all my family and friends are like really excited for me and think that we do awesome. So I don't think I like actively chose Det 105, but like I'm super glad that I ended up here.
Yeah, I didn't choose Det 105 as, okay, I'm going for Det 105. And at least I'm in a different situation. I'm from 2,000 miles away in Maine. So a bit of a trek, but for me, what drew me was the mountains, Colorado, the specific degree plan at CU Boulder. And then I wanted a place with ROTC. And at least for me personally, I was looking at some crosstown places, but I wanted a place at a host university for me. And once I got into Det 105, I saw how great the group was. So I was really happy I was there.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are two completely different experiences, being as close to home as you are, Cadet Delasantos, and 2,000 miles away with you, Cadet Luna. I probably split that. I'm right around 1,000 miles away in St. Louis, so it's like 850, so it's not terrible. But that was something that I was worried about, was coming out here, being away from family, being away from friends. I kind of chose the unbeaten path, where most of my friends stayed home, which their choice, great, they're loving it. But I was like, I want to get out of St. Louis, I want to get out of Missouri, I want to go do my own thing, and ended up following my brother out here and just fell in love with the detachment. And quite honestly, I can say it's like a family, and I've loved that ever since. I have so many stories about just when things happened, just at 105 kind of coming together, which with cadets I didn't even know knew me, and they were coming to help me with certain things. So being away from home like that, Cadet Luna, what has that experience been like for you? Kind of, you talk about kind of you found your group, you kind of, that 105 has been that group for you. What has that experience been like?
Yeah, it's, at least coming in, I didn't know what to expect because I have two older siblings and they were a little bit closer to home, still not directly in the same state, but it was my first time really out of state for an extended period of time. And just having that community within Det 105. So like, I feel like as of right now, I feel like Det 105 is my family, especially for me within Honor Guard, because I'm now in Honor Guard and I've gotten really close with a lot of people in Det 105. So just that community aspect has really helped, because I have not felt homesick. I mean, it's nice to go home every now and then, but I've not felt homesick, and all the activities I can do within ROTC and then also in college in general, it's been nice. I didn't know how I would handle the transition, but it's been good.
Yeah, absolutely. And Delasantos being close to home, have you kind of been able to see that same experience or feel that same experience?
Yes, I totally have. While I am from Colorado, I'm about an hour away from home, so I kind of have to have a justified reason to use over a half tank of gas to go home. So it's been. I totally agree, because I am also in Arnold Air Society, so I do have like another kind of group that I have found as well, and I think that especially because of COVID, has definitely played like a step in family role, at least for me, coming off of online and really just like barely knowing anyone in my classes, and like seeing blank screens or black screens when nobody would like participate in breakout rooms, and then coming to Zoom for ROTC, and then everyone has like their camera on and everyone can see everyone, like, and that was just so almost like revitalizing in such a isolated time. So I definitely agree. I feel like this big old group is totally a family.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I can agree with both of you wholeheartedly. And I think our det's lucky to have that, because I've talked to some other cadets from different dets, and it seems isolating in itself. Everyone doesn't really kind of care for everyone in a way, and it's almost like everyone's in competition, which we are. We're cadets. That's going to be our life in the Air Force, but we don't constantly think about that. That's not our goal, our drive, and that's something so unique to Det 105. And both you, if you have the opportunity to go to field training, will definitely be able to see that. Talking to other cadets and just kind of getting to know their experience, they're like, "Wow, Det 105, whoa, pretty cool." So kind of with RFC, we've talked about the good, we've talked about what you enjoy. What were some difficult experiences, and kind of how did you get over that? Whether that was your personal leadership style, growth in that, people around you, just anything that comes to mind with any difficulties you've been through.
First thing that comes to mind for me is one of the first few times that I was put into a very high intense training environment. Like, let's say I'm a flight commander and all the people around me, all the POC around me are yelling at me. And at least when I first was in that environment, I kind of froze for a minute. I was like, wow, I don't know exactly what to do. But looking back on it, that's where I grew the most and learned the most, is when I have to think under pressure. And that definitely helped spur my growth as a cadet and my mindset on leadership. Because a lot of times in the Big Blue, you're going to have to make decisions on the fly, and sometimes maybe not everyone will like it, but you have to make the best decision that you think will work out best. So.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with what you're wanting to go to, I know you were talking to me prior to this about how you're thinking about Intel, and that's with your background and your major, that's going to be huge. Thinking on the fly and kind of having that mind, that's definitely huge. And those stressful situations, learning how you react to them, learning what your body does in those stressful situations, because a lot of them are almost involuntary movements from your body. Like you just freeze up. You're like, why can't I talk? Why are no words coming out? it's a very, very real but weird situation to be in. So that's a neat perspective you have on that.
Yeah, I would say totally going off of that, I totally agree. I think the first time we were even in like a yellow environment, I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Because it's such a unique experience to be in, especially as a college student. Like having those standards and expectations like all the time for you to perform at every single week. There definitely, at least for me, there was a learning curve as we transitioned from Zoom to in person as well. I think I was just like getting used to like, okay, well, yes, we did do this on Zoom, but like now you actually have to do it. So like, and also you know what to do, so you probably should be performing it. I think that was kind of like a big learning curve for me, that I kind of had to just get used to being, how they say, comfortable with being uncomfortable at first. Just knowing that like, um, not all the time you're going to be knowledgeable on what to do or what to say or all the little rules, and just kind of doing your very best to navigate situations professionally and with grace. I would say.
Yeah, without a doubt, definitely getting uncomfortable with, or being comfortable with getting uncomfortable. That's been hard to me ever since I've been young. I mean, my grandfather retired as a brigadier general, and I've kind of been following in his footsteps, and that's something he's always told me. But when it gets stressful, do either of you have anything that you tell yourself that you can kind of lock on, that, and then you know you can get through it? Are there sayings or things you look for that can help you through those stressful situations?
I personally have some poems and quotes memorized. Um,
I hope
and then I also, pardon?
I hope outside the warrior knowledge.
Yes, that's outside. Yes. Although sometimes I'll be thinking, and it's like super nerdy, that I would be like, okay, you know, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. You know.
You gotta do it.
But yeah, I do have some quotes and even some poems and that I've memorized, or I will kind of call my dad because he tends to say the same things. But yeah, I definitely kind of, when the going gets actually tough and I realize that like I'm the only one that has control of the situation to move forward, definitely fall back on those.
And for me, the thing that comes to mind is like when I'm going through a really stressful situation, I tell myself I can get through it. I motivate myself because it's not going to last like 10 straight days of the constant pressure like that. So it'll be over soon enough. And the better I think about it, the faster I'll get through it and be able to improve. So for me, it's just motivation with myself.
Yeah, that's definitely needed. I couldn't agree with either of you more. I have my own little things I tell myself, and I try to make light of the situation. Whether I see something funny happen out of the corner of my eye, because my eyes aren't moving because I'm locked in, I promise. Staying caged 100% the entire time. And also just kind of that self-motivation. Like I always kind of think if this person next to me can do it, I can do it. That's always been the biggest thing for me. So having those are super, super important, and having that ability to self-motivate yourself, like you said, Cadet Luna, is honestly awesome. So that's great, and I'm glad you both feel comfortable having that and putting yourself in those positions. Yeah, that's awesome. But I know we've been talking for a little bit. I want to be mindful of your very, very busy schedules. So I just wanted to see, do you have any parting advice you can give any of GMC, POC alike, anything, and to cadre, whoever, and just any advice that you can give?
For GMC, sorry, you can go.
No, you're good. No, you go.
For GMC, for my fellow cadets, or for brand new 100s, the advice I give the most is try to volunteer for something where you'd be uncomfortable. So like for me personally, that's where I learned the most. The first time I was a flight commander, I learned the most. So I always tell people, do what you don't really want to do, because in the end, you'll find it rewarding and it'll become a lot easier.
Yeah, going off of that, I'd say just for the GMC, really just push yourself to reach those new heights, whether that be in your flight, or maybe if you want to apply to be, for example, command chief, or on wing staff one day as a POC. I was talking to some POC And essentially, like, you never know what you're capable of until you just go for it. And the worst that they can tell you is no. So, um, I I know that I've learned so much just by taking a chance. Like, when I was applying for this position, I was super scared and like, what if they say no? And all of these like doubts and anxieties. But it's a super rewarding thing to kind of know in your own heart that, like, you are, like, afraid, but you are here now and you are doing it. So I would say take that chance. The worst they can tell you is no.
Absolutely. That was one of the things I learned as well. What are they gonna say? No, and then, okay, move on. So that's awesome. Then do either of you have any advice for POC, whether that's leadership styles, what you want to see more, just kind of anything along the lines of that? It's a unique position that you both are in, being able to have that, and being able to have those hard conversations with POC.
Yeah, I would say, the biggest thing, we even had a briefing on it, I believe, last semester, is never lose sight of that beginner's mindset. Um, that is what really will help connect you to the GMC. And yeah, I think that's one of the most important things. Like, remember where you started. And it's super easy to say that, but it's also like, it's also easy to forget where you started because you've been doing it for so long. So, yeah, just have that beginner's mindset and understand where your GMC and IMTs and FTPs are coming from.
Awesome.
Yeah, to go off of that, the way I see it, POC is once you get past field training, you're not done. You have 2 more years, sometimes 3, depending on your program. But POC, you need to put in as much effort as you were as a GMC. It's both sides, but in order to be successful at Det 105, GMC and POC need to work together, both giving 100%. Because if one goes more one way, then it reflects bad on one, and vice versa. So always putting in that effort and knowing that even if you made it to field training, there's still ways for you to get kicked out if you slack off and do something wrong. So always put forth your best effort.
Yeah, I appreciate both your words of wisdom with that. I've seen personally POC come back from field training, and it's just been like, well, who are you? I don't even know you anymore, because they just kind of mentally check out, got through field training, great. But like you said, Cadet Luna, there's 2-3 years left, and that's the biggest thing. And giving that effort, like you are a first aid GMC, and that's absolutely true, and I could not agree with that more. It's as Colonel Barnes told us, it's a 4-year interview, and you're not done until those ranks are pinned on you, those bars are pinned on you. So I cannot agree with that more, and it's even more evident now with me only having less than 90 days till commissioning, something like that. I'm probably so off, but more or less along the lines of that, it's even more evident. Hearing you both say that really does kind of resonate. But do either of you have any questions or any other topics you wanted to kind of talk about? If not, totally okay. I appreciate your guys' time. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Cadet Luna and Cadet Delasantos, for imparting some wisdom on Det 105 and any other listeners to this podcast. Det 105 is the greatest attachment in the country, and we continue to show it with cadets like both of yourselves. So I appreciate you both coming on here and kind of opening up to us and kind of sharing that. But stay classy, Chiefs. We will come back soon with another episode. So thank you very much.